I think I'll use this. And I said before jumping into the stage with a couple of folks that know me, I have to make the joke. I look like a robot. It's funny also for me to wear this. Thank you, Razvan, and the colleagues from Future Banking for the opportunity to show. Indeed, I think it's a premiere for the first time, a study which addresses I put there a couple of words about retail banking usage, switching, factors, reasons, consolidation, share of wallet. Which bank has what share of wallet? That means what proportion of customers' products each bank has. And there's a couple of questions that over the course of this year, talking with various people and folks in banking, I got from them, and I didn't have an answer, like basic questions. How many banks do Romanians work with? What's our share of wallet? What do we need to do to increase our share of wallet, to make our customers more loyal? And I didn't have the answers in a empirical, quantitative way. So for the conference of today, we said a couple of months ago with Razvan and the folks, let's do a study, a quantitative study, 2,000 respondents indeed, and understand a couple of things about this element. I cannot possibly cover all the contents of the study in the next 10-15 minutes that I have, and for whoever is interested, please reach out to me on LinkedIn or email or mobile who has it, and I'll be happy to share the entire study with a lot of more details than we're going to show today. What the study covers is basically a very good understanding of Romanians in general, what banks they use, what banks they used but they don't use anymore, which banks they considered to work with but they never did. What is their main bank? What do they mean by main bank? What would be the reasons to switch from one bank to another? What's their level of satisfaction? If they plan to switch, why don't they? What's keeping them to one bank or another? And very important, it's the share of wallet. That's the name of the study. Which bank has what share of customers' wallets? And what banks have what opportunity to increase their share of wallets? And what banks have what risks to lose some of their customers or some of their products? There's a lot of contents and information, and today I'm just going to show a glimpse, a couple of elements, and we're going to start little by little with few insights. First things first. Question to the audience to start the morning. How many banks do you think the average Romanian works with on average? 2.5. We're close. Any other guess? I actually have 14 banks that I work with actively, but for a different reason. Okay, so the situation is more or less as follows, and I think it's by the way, disclaimer like for any study, I think it's highly representative of Romanians in general. It's a bit more skewed towards urban people than rural, so first things first, because it was a survey done in digital online. But I think it's very relevant, actually even more relevant for banks and for bankers. So on average is about 2.2. There's some customers working with only one bank, 40% of them working with only one bank, but there's also customers working with 4 or more banks. And on average 2.2. Now the question is, how many products do they have on average? And which bank has, equips its customers with the biggest number of products? So how many products does a Romanian have on average? 2. So somebody had the slides before? So yes, it's about on average, 2 products per customer. There's obviously banks that equip their customers with more products to the right, like ING, and surprisingly, some of the small banks, and some other banks that equip their customers with fewer products. Revolut, on average, has a lower number of products per customer, but it's also normal. It's used for a particular or different purpose than a universal bank. And now the question comes, which of these banks do you think has its customers as loyal as possible, or most loyal customers? Check. Okay. Let's define what loyal means, because loyal can be defined in a lot of ways. Let's think which bank has the highest percentage of customers working only with that bank, yeah? And not with 2 or 3 or 4 other banks. Yeah, you know, if there are guesses. I mean, the next quadrant there is going to show a ranking, a top 1, 2, 3. Yeah? And it shows like this. So 27% of BT customers work only with BT. And that's the largest share that we see throughout the banks in Romania of customers working only with that bank, only with their bank. Yeah? BCR, PRD follow closely, Raiffeisen follow closely. Like any study, there's a margin error, 3-4%. Take it, you know, rounding the numbers. And an interesting thing, just to the extremes, indeed BT's customers seem to be more loyal throughout the market, on average working with only other 1 or 2 banks besides BT. Smaller banks tend to have customers that tend to work with more banks. Vista appeared the extreme, meaning their customers work with a lot of banks, 5 other banks on average. A couple of interesting things that I want to show. Which banks Romanians considered in the past, but never bought from in the end. So they considered taking a product, a loan, an account, a deposit, whatever, but they never did. This to me, if I would be you, if I would be a banker, would mean a lost opportunity. So those are customers that are looking at me, but they never buy from me. And aside from the percentage, which is percentage of respondents, more interesting is the ratio there to the right, which means how many customers are looking at me but are never taking a product from me compared to my customer base, as a ratio. And then if you look, there are banks which are actually losing quite a big opportunity, or they have a lost opportunity, not fructifying it enough. Czech, for example. There's 2.4 times customers which in the recent past, which was not defined as a particular number of years, but in the recent past, looked at Czech, at a product, but never took it. Yeah? Whereas there are some other banks, Banca Transilvania, Revolut, lower share. Yeah? It's explainable also because of the market share. And another interesting thing is what customers banks lost. The way we read this chart is you have the gray bar here. These are current customers. And the light gray bar, these are the lost customers. So customers that worked with that bank in the past don't work anymore as a ratio. And you can see some interesting things. There's few banks which, lost a lot of customers throughout the years. Yeah. The ratio there on the right, I would translate it simply, or stated simply as, if I hadn't lost any customers throughout the years, this much bigger I would be today. Yeah? So BRD, for example, would be today 2.6 times bigger if it hadn't lost any customers throughout the years. And obviously there's banks which did not lose yet so many customers, the newer entrants in the market. And here comes the most interesting, I say, part of the study, the share of wallet. What proportion of customers' products, all products, loans, deposits, credit cards, current accounts, and so on, does each bank have? Who's winning their customers' wallet? Banca Transilvania is on the first position with 41%. Couple of other banks coming below, 35, 37%. And obviously some of the smaller banks or neo-banks have a lower share of wallet, which is as expected or explainable. Does this seem surprising? I mean, is it, whoa, I didn't expect that, or I was kind of seeing it. Well, I understand there's people from different banks here in the room. You know, I was kind of expecting it. If I look at the markets, and if you think there's, on average, Romanians are working on average with more than 2 banks, you kind of see that, you know, what would be the share of wallet of each bank. What I would say is, and if I would be in any of this situation, I would simply strive to go above 60-70%. And there's particular also, there's particular also reasons why customers would switch between banks or would consolidate their products or services to particular banks. We will not go through this in detail now because we don't have time, but I encourage you, whoever wants, I'll share the study. The next page, I want to show an interesting thing. There's a lot of logos. How do we read this page? So on the first column you have a bank. Let's start with the first row, ING. And then the next columns is basically with whom does that bank share most of its customers? Or mathematically, if we look at 45%, this percentage here, that means 45% of the customers of the bank on the first column work with this bank. So 45% of customers of ING today work with Revolut. And about a third work with Banca Transilvania. There's a lot of sharing of customers in the market between the banks, as expected. And a lot of sharing actually of banks with mostly Revolut and Banca Transilvania. Explainable because they're by number of customers at the moment the largest banks, Banca Transilvania and then Revolut. But we chose here to put the, let's say, the biggest intersections in terms of percentages. Yeah? Unicredit, Drive, same, share a lot with Revolut and a lot with Banca Transilvania. Czech, same. BCR, the same. So a lot of sharing, a lot of, however you want to call it, opportunity or threat, but interesting things, you know, that for me at least, it triggers my mind actually about opportunities, not necessarily threats. A couple of other things. Which banks are at risk of losing their customers? So on average, about a quarter of Romanians state, it's a stated thing, it's not It's a declaration. It's not, you don't actually necessarily see it as a switch, but as a declaration, as a stated preference. They would plan to leave one of their banks in the next year, in the next period of time. About a quarter of Romanians plan to leave one or more of their banks, close the relationship in the next period. The percentages, however, show some differences between banks. So who's, let's say, at risk? You have a couple of banks, BCR, BRD, a larger share of their customers state they want to close the relationship with that bank. The vast majority of them, here, I'm not sure if you see the legend, the dark gray is they also want to open another relationship and start working with another bank. The light gray, they just want to close the relationship, not start working with anyone else. Yeah. So, if I would have a customer base and I see 17%, 1 in 5 customers, 1 in 6 customers says, I want to close the relationship with that bank in the next year, I would probably, it would be on my top 3 priorities. And there's few other banks which seem to be less at risk, with a much tinier percentage of customers stating they really want to close the relationship with that bank. But it doesn't mean that's it, because there's a bit different situation to how many customers want also to open, to start a new relationship with a new bank. They're looking on a new product or a new service. For various reasons, we have them behind. Before I jump to the next page, question. What percentage of customers do you think, of Romanians, they plan to start, or they would be willing to start working with a new bank in the next year for the right reasons, for specific reasons? 50. Really, somebody had the slides before. Yes, it's 52% of customers on average, they are willing and they are looking, sure, I would be willing to start working with a new bank, but for the right reasons and for specific products. And the same, there are few differences between banks, between the customers of each bank. So you have banks of whose customers, they're more willing, they're looking more towards new banks. And some banks with a bit more loyal customers, not looking so much, but still, 40%, 45% is still a large number. And the same, the legend here, the light gray, it means they're looking to start a new relationship, but not closing the relationship with that respective bank. The smaller dark gray proportion, they're also looking to close the relationship with that bank. I'd be very preoccupied if I would be here. Yeah? I mean, 1 in 6 customers wanting to close the relationship with me and move to another bank. What would be the impact in P&L if that would happen? Probably big. Depends on what products they have with me. We have those details behind also, but I'm not going to go in details now through it. There's also, if you try to quantify in monetary terms the risk, there's a bit bigger differences between different banks. And then finally, we have 2 more minutes. The last page, to which bank would customers be willing to consolidate, to bring all their products and services to that bank? Of course, for particular reasons. There's some differences in reasoning behind. I saved this page, the last, because to close it in a bit more optimistic manner. I call it optimistic because if I look at it, customers, they would be willing to consolidate, bring their product services to one bank for the right reasons, but there's not big differences between them. Yeah? I mean, on average, 70–80% would be willing, customers of BCR would be willing to consolidate in BCR, customers of BRD consolidate in BRD, and so on and so forth. And the dark gray proportion means customers that said, there's no way in hell I'm gonna bring all my products to that bank. Yeah? You always have customers like that as well, about 20%, 15–20%. Again, with various reasons behind to consolidate, which I will not go into the details now. I'm just gonna let you with the final words. It's about pricing, and pricing of the relationship, not of the product itself, which is something that is becoming a priority for many banks that we see here and in other markets as well. In the region, in UK, many banks I work with start thinking, how do I do that? How do I optimize my pricing in such a way to consolidate my customers' products with me? Thank you. This was it. More details behind, happy to share to whomever wants. Are there any questions? Rizwan, I think it can be available for everyone, maybe in the platform. And whoever wants, again, please reach out to me by email or LinkedIn or whoever. You'll for sure find me. And I will share it with a lot more details.
If you agree, we can share it, of course, with everyone from the audience.
Go ahead, absolutely.
Okay, questions?
Sorry?
Why are there 2 unique credits on this slide?
You know, consultants sometimes make typos.
Okay.
It happens.
Thank
it's
you
a good spot, good catch. Sorry. I think it's just the thing. So the power, the chart, just a copy paste. Yeah, it's the same percentage. But I'll double check. Thank you. Any others?
Can we find the main reasons for customers to switch banks in the report?
Yes. And well, not in this version, but I have another longer version, which I haven't presented here, with rankings of reasons and so on. Yes, yes.
We have to pay for it? No.
But you know, what do you think is the main reason, or the main 2 or 3 reasons why customers would be willing to do the switch or to consolidate? I mean, why would you do it? I mean, probably here people work with more banks. For? Okay, interesting. So for customer experience, what does it mean, customer experience? Like UX in the mobile, like how well they treat me on the phone?
Solve a problem when I need.
Okay, to solve problems when I need, yeah?
One major severe incident which pissed me off.
Yeah.
Customer care.
Customer care. Wow, interesting. I mean, none of these is among top 2 or 3 reasons. There are frictions in the relationship with the bank. But apparently they're not so big. I mean, think about it. How many times your bank sometimes annoyed you? It probably a couple of times. To me as well, to everyone. We're people, we're humans. So did you actually move from that bank? No. Declaration-wise, yes, they annoy me, I would move, but you don't. But there's other particular reasons which are not so out of the ordinary. It's pricing. Yeah? It is the reality of what matters. For very good pricing, I move over bad treatment in the contact center. We're humans, I understand. For very good pricing, yeah?
How do you compare the prices? It's pretty complicated, although there is a law for that.
As a customer or as a
customer?
As a customer. Well, you know, let's think about it. Loans should be fairly simple to compare. Yeah? That's what also the regulator and the market did. Try to make loan offers comparable through the one single indicator. Deposits, financial education, rather low in Romania, but trust me, every human being knows immediately, smells the money, yeah? Can spot that bank pays more on deposit than the other bank. That nobody can tell me Romanians cannot compare interest rates for deposits. And then indeed there's a bit more complicated story with other products, including transactional current accounts, credit cards, and so on. But in general, it's for pricing. It's among the top reasons. And there's also a few reasons which are simply, I call it stickiness service or locked-in service. There's simple reasons like, that's where my employer pays my salary, so I'll just stay there. And there's a couple of differences between the banks, actually. You see it in each bank's strategy of how they acquired customers over the years. Yeah. Thank you. Any other question? Yes. There's, like any study, a page with the sample and the demographics and the splits and everything. Yeah. As I said, I chose particularly to do it online, rather skewed towards urban, because I think that's where people focus and that's where the money in the market is. So by all means, it's not statistically representative, 95% confidence interval, 3% margin of error for the national level, because then I would have been forced to simply put it half urban, half rural, and that's not necessarily what I wished from this study. Yeah. But you'll have the sample and the methodology, everything inside. Yeah. Only retail, not micro SMEs and so on. I thought about doing that, but we'll do it for the next event. Cool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Florian.
Thank you.
Very useful. And